welcome to everybody. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Glad to have so many folks attending and joining us on this discussion. And especially grateful for our colleagues here from Zoom and customer here with Master Control that I'm looking forward to introducing. So while everybody gets settled in, just really quick, couple housekeeping things. We don't have an official QA at the end because I think we got so much good stuff that we're going to hear from the participants and panelists. So if you have questions throughout, put them into the Q&A. We'll try to get those if it makes sense to fold them into the discussion as we go. I'm really disappointed that somebody on our team didn't bring like the fake fireplace background, for our fireside chat here. Come on, guys, we missed that totally. I think this will be a great discussion. So if you're on here, hopefully you're ready to hear about a customer, in this case, Master Control, great customer of Zoom that made some changes right over the last couple of years when it comes to contact center technology. And there's a lot of organizations we've seen that have had a kind of a similar journey of maybe they moved to the cloud. Maybe it was pandemic induced, like, oh, we got remote employees. We got a bunch of changes in our business now. We got to make a change. And we've seen a lot of customers make that change, but then say, oh, we didn't do that as perfectly as we wish we could. And how do I do that change better if we're going to move to a different platform? So hopefully you're on to get some insights. You're going to hear from Jody and Ryan today, and they're going to share a lot of this journey, as well as the Zoom team and myself. So let's jump into introductions, and we're going to jump into our questions for the group. So I'll start us out. Mike Doloff, Chief Revenue Officer, InflowCX. Been with the company about 9 years, and we, as an organization, help companies just like Master Control to help. What's the journey on unified communications, collaboration, contact center, customer engagement technologies to get the right technologies, implement those technologies, and then optimize those technologies, help through that entire journey. So that's what we do. And I'll pass it over here to Jerry and Donovan in that order to say hello, intro themselves, and a little bit about Zoom.
Thanks, Mike. Really looking forward to this conversation. As you mentioned, Jerry Straw. I'm the head of Zoom Contact Center here at Zoom for the major segment, and really excited to have this conversation as we have many, many customers that have made those quick decisions, especially going into the COVID era, and now making secondary decisions that they move to the cloud, and now they want to have the correct solution and a better solution and actually reinvent some of the business processes, which I think we're going to enjoy hearing some of the stories from Master Control.
Thank you, Jerry, and welcome everyone. Good morning. My name is Donovan Dolph. I am a contact center specialist here at Zoom. Have about 22 years in the industry, give or take. Started my career in unified communications and collaboration at the turn of the decade or century, I guess, the year 2000. So I've seen a lot, and a lot of the conversation we're going to kind of go through today. We'll really hit on kind of what's new today versus 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or even 2 years ago, to Mike's point in the introduction.
Great. Let's introduce really the stars of the show today, Ryan and Jody from Master Control. Ryan, you want to say hello, introduce yourself and your role, and then we'll pass it to Jody.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. My name is Ryan Schmuckpepper. I'm the manager of system administration at Master Control, and that responsibility includes integrating new solutions with our ServiceNow instance, including Zoom and our previous solution as well.
Hi guys, I am Jody Seeley. I'm one of the enterprise support managers here at Master Control. The department that I manage is the department that actually uses the contact center with Zoom very successfully. So Master Control, for those of you who don't know who we are, we're a quality management software, also manufacturing excellence software. So what we do is we take companies and make them 100% paperless in the office as well as on the manufacturing floor. So they can be 100% paperless on there. Some of the customers that we work with are the FDA. We've got the CDC that uses our software, as well as Pfizer and a lot of other life sciences customers that utilize Master Control. We've got over 1,000 global customers across the world. So great software, excellent software. We love working with our life sciences groups, and we say that we help bring life-changing products to customers sooner. So thanks.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are helping with the word digital transformation gets tossed around a lot. You guys are absolutely helping with that, right? With a lot of these customers.
Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
cool. Well, thank you, Ryan and Jody, and thanks, Zoom team, for the intros. Let's jump in. So, one of the questions, Jody, I'm dying to hear you share kind of more insights with the rest of the attendees today is, you guys made a change from a legacy system to a kind of a CCaaS solution, and then it wasn't quite the fit, and didn't check all the boxes that you hoped it would. So what drove you ultimately in the last, year and some change to move to Zoom Contact Center? Like, what were some of the drivers behind that made that change? Because obviously I'm sure you didn't want to change for the sake of it. Nobody does.
Sure.
So how'd you get to that point?
Yeah. So obviously, the pandemic hit, and I think a lot of customers were in the same boat that we were. We were, a support group that was in the office 100% of the time, and all of a sudden we all had to work from home. So we had to get off of our legacy system, Cisco, and we needed to find something that we could implement very quickly. We had already been in talks with Zoom and wanted to go ahead and move to Zoom. However, it just wasn't ready for us yet. So we had to find something that we could implement very quickly, that didn't take a lot of time to implement. So we went to TalkDesk. So that was something that we could implement very quickly. It, was a little bit more stable than what Cisco was, but also, the integration for TalkDesk just took a lot less time. So that's why we went to TalkDesk, and we stayed there until we could actually get into Zoom. We'd already been using Zoom for meetings and stuff like that, but being able to actually move from TalkDesk to Zoom was a little bit easier for us, with the integrations being there. So
Very cool. That's great. So you already had Zoom in place in some parts of the business, but needed to get some more quickly. But then long term, your goal was to really get to consolidate. What's sort of the driver for you guys of, is it consolidating fewer systems? Ryan, maybe that's one for you, but like, what's the driver of Zoom? Great relationship. What were some of the reasons why you're like, we're heading to Zoom here?
yeah, I think, we were already using Zoom within the company. So we were familiar with it. Our engineers were already familiar with it. Our customers were already familiar with it because we were using it for our Zoom meetings already. So working towards implementing that and being able to use that in our contact center and be able to just very smoothly move from a phone call into a Zoom video meeting, which our customers were already used to. That was one of the driving things for us. We want less systems. We don't want, nobody wants 100 softwares that they have to use for, all different things, and you have to try to integrate them together. And the fact that Zoom had a lot of the things that we desired helped us be able to make that decision. And like I said, the customers were already used to it. Our engineers were already used to it. And we were able to integrate it pretty easily.
That's wonderful. That's a pretty compelling story for Zoom talking about themselves as a platform company. Like, here's a great example of a customer that's really desiring that. So awesome. Jerry, I'll turn this one to you to add. It sounds like there's been a many-year relationship here with Zoom and Master Control. Can you give some color to what that role has been? What role you guys have played? What's that partnership been like over the years?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So really, when Zoom and our customers, and we really like to look at them as business partners, as what we do, because it is a long-term relationships, and it's about how can we help our customers achieve some of the goals that they're looking for from a business standpoint. This is a multi-year relationship that, of course, started with Zoom meetings, and everybody knows Zoom about the meetings and going through this, but quickly grew from that into Zoom Phone. Is how can we take a UCaaS, deploy that out there, and we were very successful with Master Control on that. And then, as Jody mentioned, more and more consolidations. Why do I need to have multiple applications out there? Why can't I have a single platform that can really drive a really differentiated customer experience? And that was the step into Zoom Contact Center and adding that to it. So now you have this entire process all on a single platform where you think about somebody can come into your website and start from a chat, start with self-service with a virtual chat agent, go right into a chat with an agent, up-level that into a video meeting if you want, or into a phone call. So you can really design an excellent customer experience. And so That is what we worked with Master Control on, or what are some of those things that you want to do and can accomplish over this period of time if you had that single platform all working together and not spending your time trying to bolt multiple pieces together as you go through this. And I think if you, Ryan, I'd love to get your insight here a little bit about what did that transition look like? And, did you just immediately shift everything over onto Zoom, your processes as is, and then innovated? Did you do any innovation prior? But maybe you could provide some insight as to what that experience was like on that migration.
Yeah, for sure. So excuse me, we had obviously a previous solution. We had already moved away from our legacy system, so we were already in the cloud, and we were leveraging TalkDesk. And there were some pain points with TalkDesk in terms of some of the features that we wanted to implement when we moved away originally that we couldn't really pull off. And so when we approached implementation of Zoom, we took a look at it. We started with feature parity. We had just transitioned the previous year, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't have any undue negative customer experiences. So we started with feature parity so we could keep it consistent. And then as we went through it and we realized that Zoom did have these available options to us, we started implementing a few more data dips back into ServiceNow and Salesforce to get us a little bit more information to use in our flows and in our routing processes. So it was a pretty, we started with basically feature parity and with a little bit of feature implementation, got ourselves established, worked out a few of the bugs that we encountered just in terms of teaching our teams and working with the flow. And then over the course of the first 6 months or so, we implemented a few additional features like skills and items so that we could troubleshoot small instead of trying to fix everything at the same time.
We're seeing more and more of that. And Mike, I'm probably going to turn this over to you here for this question is, as people are switching from contact center to a new contact center is going out there, is how much time, or what are some of the best practices that you've seen? Is do you completely redesign your processes at that point in time? Do you implement as is just to make the transition, then do smaller iterations as you're going through, as Ryan just described? What are some of the things with Inflow and the hundreds of implementations that you've done out there? What are some best practices that you've seen and recommendations Inflow makes to your customers?
Yeah, I think Ryan gave some great, I would say that what's most common path is what Ryan described for master control, right? Which is some level, but I would say the short answer of all this is it depends, right? The worst answer, but it depends, right? I would say that a lot of customers haven't maybe gone through a journey like this or don't have maybe internally the right expectations of timeline. If you want to do more changes, it's possible and it can be done successfully up front, but you have to have way more time kind of pre-work, maybe even before procuring the technology, right? Of understanding workflows, what do we want to change things to? So it's possible, but I'd say a lot of time companies don't budget as much time in the front end of doing that. And that's okay. That's okay. But I also think you have to understand what's the tolerance of other projects. What's the strain, right? Ryan called out that they'd just gone through a change a year before too. So do you really want to put the business through a really drastic change? Probably not. Do we want to take a step back? Definitely not. So finding that right balance of what's the threshold that you sometimes have a new leader in an org or a change where they're like, we really need to go from like the Stone Age to modern era, right? And they're very conscious of that and they want to do that. That happens. That's possible. More planning and coordination. But I'd say the common is really what the master control did. I think that's a really good, if you don't know where, do this. Do it mostly like for like, but take off some of the things that you can that are improvements. And think of this as more of probably a marathon than a sprint. You're going to go live and then you can continue to iterate on it. And guess what? Not only does the master control team have things that they want to probably roadmap and improve on and work on, more integrations with ServiceNow and all these things, but also the product, Zoom, will evolve as well, which will open up new opportunities for the team to take advantage of. So kind of that mindset of like a longer term vision is a really good way to do it. And you really have to know your organization with what's the change management threshold that they can handle. What do we really need to do? I would say most companies don't try to force too much up front, and that's a good thing. You're not trying to like completely overhaul everything. So I'd say, Ryan, what they shared is a great example of a good way to do it. Some incremental change, but we're not taking any steps back. We're taking a couple little steps forward in certain areas. And then let's go from there. Let's stable. And Ryan said a good thing too. If you change all this stuff and things aren't going well, where do you start? What's not working? Is it a process thing, a knowledge thing? Is it a technology thing? All of a sudden, IT and other parts of the business are having to spend a lot of time and first impressions matter a ton. The business's first impression is, wow, this isn't good. And we're confused. And well, now everyone's going to have a hard time really seeing the positive of that change. So I'll take this one. I think talked a little bit about the process, Jody. We talked a little bit about the why, but I would love to hear, now that you're some level of time in the platform, like what are some of the positive impacts that this change moving to Zoom Contact Center, what has that brought to your team internally? What has that brought to your customers? Things that they can feel and impacts to them.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier when I was talking, I think that it was just a seamless integration for us, right? We went from having Zoom meetings all the time to being able to, instead of sending them invites and making them have to, get off the phone and be able to join a meeting and stuff like that, they're able to just very seamlessly go from a call straight into a video, which, that's been huge for us. We're not having to manage two different areas to be able to work with our customers and stuff. Also, the integration that we're being able to do with ServiceNow. ServiceNow is our bread and butter when it comes to, our entering our tickets and working with our customers and communicating with our customers and stuff. So being able to have that integration where they work so well together has been a huge impact for us. For our team, that's the impact there. But as a manager, the analytics that we have within Zoom are far greater than what we had in TalkDesk. There's so much more that we can pull, so much more data that we can pull and things from there. I can pull it real time, or I can look at it historically and get every piece of data that I'm needing. So I think that has been a huge benefit for us from a management standpoint. But from my users, just the fact of being able, or my engineers being able to move over seamlessly to a video chat where we can actually see the customer's system and stuff instead of having to send a separate email. It was just a huge impact for us.
Have you done any quantification of that kind of impact on, like, you seen reduction in like average handle time or any of those sorts of things because of some of the less steps required to troubleshoot and help a customer out?
We're definitely able to get through our calls faster. Before, whenever we would have to be on a call and then try to get them into Zoom, and it's like, where are we going to talk at? Are we going to talk on the phone? Are we going to talk in Zoom? And, I think there was a lot of confusion back and forth with customers, especially when you bring new customers on, having to go through that process all over again with them. So just being able to do it seamlessly has helped us in being able to close those calls a lot quicker.
Very cool. Thanks, Jody. Some great insights. I'll pass this to maybe Donovan at Zoom to kind of hearing some of what Jody shared, but also just knowing what you're seeing across multiple customers. What are you seeing some of the biggest kind of positive impacts from customers as they've moved maybe to that more unified tech stack with Zoom Contact Center being added to the mix? What are some of the things besides what Jody shared that you're seeing?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I've got a couple things in the context of this conversation that I think are relevant, but to hit on kind of the experience Jody shared of kind of that elevation of an interaction that may have started from a voice call into a video call. The quality of that experience is paramount, right? Even if it was just voice, that's an area that we get a lot of feedback from customers on is just kind of this overall improved quality of experience. And there's a lot to that, right? I think all of us on this session today kind of take that for granted, right? But if you think about kind of the heritage of Zoom, it's the infrastructure that supports that experience and it really delivers on that quality. So as you look at providing an elevated level of customer service, as Jody described, right? Video plays a much more important role in the interactions her team is having with their customers. a quality experience is necessary, and that's definitely feedback that we get. And candidly, is a driver for a lot of customers to take another look and reassess the investments that they've made in this space. As we all know, that's become even more important with remote work, right? I think we're all in home offices more often than not, unreliable network connectivity. So being able to provide a quality experience even in those conditions is absolutely paramount, and something that we hear a lot about. The other piece I want to highlight is really kind of this notion of operational efficiency. And it's kind of a broad reaching statement, but definitely feedback we get from a lot of customers who have made this move. This is so much easier to manage, right? I think, you know, we at Zoom hear all the time, Zoom is just easy, it just works. And that's kind of feedback from an end user's perspective. And I think, you know, Jody, hopefully your team kind of provides this feedback that, you know, it's very easy to operate the tool or the technology as an agent. But what's less focused on, that I hear about a lot from folks like Ryan, is this is so much easier to manage, especially, you know, when compared with, you know, legacy on-prem systems that have many moving pieces that need to be integrated. So Ryan, I'd be curious to hear from you on this side, given that you've had kind of some time to operate the Zoom platform now. What's your view on kind of ease of management and operational efficiency? Have you seen kind of tangible improvements in that area?
Well, it's night and day from our legacy solution. We had very little transparency or visibility into the system at all. In fact, even our IT team that was managing it for us had difficulty with it. So it was a huge step above that, but it was also a significant lift up from the talk desk solution that we had. The biggest improvement in terms of what the part that sold me on it was the outbound integrations. So when I need to request data from an exterior system, the Zoom Flow, the tool that you have in there is very straightforward, very easy to use. It spells out exactly what you're requesting. It spells out exactly how you need to return the information and what variables they're going to come into, which makes it makes making changes to it take a couple hours versus days of testing. You guys have an excellent debug feature in there, so it's very easy to see what data is coming back and to monitor the process of a call. So that was the biggest improvement that I saw from the other solutions that we tested, was just that ability to say, because we get all sorts of requests from our stakeholders of, hey, we want to do this, but only if the customer has this product, or we want to do this, but only if the customer hasn't called back in the last 30 days. And while those seem easy and on this, they require additional data that we don't keep in Zoom. Zoom doesn't even store for us. So you have to be able to get to outbound sources of data in order to accomplish those. And Zoom makes that very easy. So I really appreciate that. And that has been one of the easiest pieces of this process.
Yeah, that's great feedback, Ryan. And kind of it makes me think of something, kind of thinking back early on in my career. And I think a big part of why customers have struggled, those that struggle in innovating in the contact center space and in the way that they interact with their customers, I think a big part of that is the complexity of making it happen, right? I think what you just described is, hey, I've got an idea in my head. How can I turn that into reality? And it's all those pieces in the middle that need to be easier to execute on versus you know, them being very complicated or needing additional resources or support or expertise to make that happen. So great feedback.
So Mike, when you're looking at this, obviously Master Control's gone through some organization changes to take advantage of all this functionality that's come in, bringing in data from separate systems, the rate of innovation, the new technology that Zoom continues to deliver. What have you seen what do organizations need to do to be prepared for this, to be ready to adapt a solution like the Zoom platform and really take advantage of the entire platform and not just add another element to a full plethora of applications?
Yeah, I think this is it's a big topic, because Ryan and Jody, think back to this, I think it was Cisco, you said, right, that you had kind of as a legacy system. A lot of that was, I'll quote sort of one of my favorite, you know, infomercial guys, Ron Popeil, right? It was like set it and forget it, right? Like just like the rotisserie oven or whatever. that's what you did with those systems. So there's some of that mentality that has to be overcome internally. This is one of the biggest things that we help customers with, is the mentality has to change. You're going to buy a technology that will help with these all these immediate things, but it's going to evolve, and it's not something that is set and forget anymore. So you have to kind of help customers really understand that, like, have an endurance mindset. This is a marathon. This is not like a sprint to the go live and then you never think of it again until you replace it in 20 years. This is like have endurance because you're going to want to, in order to really get the ROI and the value for the business, you're going to want to optimize and tweak this over time. And the system's more geared towards that. So making sure that sort of mindset exists, and sometimes it just takes a while, right? But getting that up front, recognizing that'll be a change. There also has to be some internal structure around that, right? Like, how do we optimize this more? Who has ownership, right? Like Ryan, I think, does a really good job, it sounds like, of working, hand in hand with the business on stuff, so that they're constantly in dialogue about what could we do, and here's the problem. And so that good kind of internal discussion, it's not like you just say, hey, we've done the project, technical resources are going to go back to the basement and work there. I say that jokingly. I love IT people, work with them. But, and then the business is going to go do their thing. Like, this collaboration and communication, we have to have a process and system in place to support that ongoing, to really maximize it. And I think the other thing is, the reality is, if I asked Ryan and Jody, what do they do today? They've got a lot of hats they wear. And Zoom is evolving all the time. And this is where that, you talked about it, Jerry, that partnership, right? You have to have our job as a trusted advisor partner. If we're in the mix, Zoom, we have to be constantly educating and bringing relevant stuff that's changing in the technology to the awareness of the master control team. Because I would guess that Ryan and Jody don't have spare time to twiddle their thumbs and read release notes on stuff all the time. But a good partnership is us proactively bringing that kind of stuff to them and educating them, keeping them aware of, hey, we tried, you were talking about this use case and there wasn't a great way to solve that before. Hey, this new thing came out. I think we could use that to solve this. Being proactive, bringing that stuff up, right? Seeing other use cases that businesses and customers in other verticals are doing. Say, hey, we had a customer solve a problem like this. We should look at that for you guys, to help push and be an outside voice, to be constantly helping them innovate. I think those are some of the ingredients, internal and external, that can really make that successful, Jerry.
Great.
So we're right at time almost, and I'll ask this question to Jody, and Ryan would love your input on it as well. Change is tough, right? It's a tough thing. You've seen, what advice would you give to other peers, right, in the business or in IT around, hey, you made a change, but I don't really want to go through it again. That was painful, or we're dealing with challenges, or stability is, it's sort of the devil versus the devil you don't know kind of question. How would you talk someone through that that's kind of unhappy where they're at, but worried about that next change? Like, what advice would you give them, or thoughts would you give them? Jody, would you lead out first?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, you need to discuss it with your team, your internal team, get all of your questions, your concerns that you have together. And then, when it came to Zoom and the questions that we had, we always had our account team there. We always reached out and asked those questions. And they were always answered, whether they could answer them right that second or answer them later. They were always answered for us. So, get in. One of the things that we did was we talked to other customers that had Zoom implemented, right? And I've actually talked to other customers who are thinking about implementing Zoom. So if any of you guys are thinking about it and have questions and want to meet with me, let your account rep know. They can put us in touch. I'm happy to sit down and talk one-on-one with anybody, because I think hearing it face-to-face from someone who has actually done it, and being able to sit there and ask their own questions, it's helpful. It helped us make that decision for sure. Brian, I'll let you add in.
Yeah. So just a quick comment. Adoption is hard. There is no doubt about it. Change is hard, especially for people that have been using a tool for a long time. The biggest, I guess, piece of advice there I can say is find something that's value add, that either significantly grants a new feature or improves an existing feature that wasn't working the way most of your customer base expected. Without value add, adoption becomes very difficult. So if you have that in place ahead of time and you can sell that, I mean, you're selling this change to your internal employees. And so that's the one way I always try to approach it. The other piece that we ran into with a couple of these implementations is making sure that you've correctly identified all your stakeholders prior to trying. There were a couple times where we realized that some of our processes, we left out a couple stakeholders. So just keep that in mind. And that's really the only way to make it as easy as possible. Adoption and change are difficult.
So many good nuggets in there. I love it.
Great input, Ryan.
Yeah. So I think getting the stakeholders involved, the what's in it for me mentality is important, right? Internally. So many good nuggets in there. I know we have to wrap. We're at time. It's been a great discussion. I really want to thank especially Jody and Ryan, but also Donovan and Jerry for just providing the insights. And so I know we got a couple questions. We didn't get to all of them, but we addressed, I think, many of them in there. We certainly would welcome a conversation. And Jody was like willing to say, hey, I'll talk to people too. So thank you, Jody, for being willing. We will have a recording that will go out if you missed portions of it. And then I think, Kylie, did you post in the chat for anybody if they want to know how to get in touch with any of us? They can get in touch with us and we'll get you connected to the right people. I think that's out there. And so anyways, I want to thank everyone for the time on this call. Thank you, attendees, for tuning in, participating. But Master Control team, wonderful, great job. You could teach some lessons to a lot of customers, so we might tap your shoulders for that. So good job. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Have a good day.
guys.
Thank you.
Take care.